So the way we use supply and demand analysis is to study events and what happens in the market, and given these events are happening, in what direction are these events going to cause price and quantity in markets to move. And you want to really adopt a methodology to conducting these event studies, because if you start flipping around steps, or if you get muddled in your thinking, it's easy to fall into an infinite loop and just get nonsense. So do a lot of practice and be really, really careful about how you implement these steps. All right, well, here are the steps. I've got these pictures are for a particular event I have in mind. But first, you draw the initial equilibrium. Okay, that's just whatever market you're studying, draw a situation where nothing else is changing, nothing else wants to change. That's never true in a real sense in the real world, but you want to isolate in on the event you're studying. And then think about the event and think carefully and ask yourself the question, does the event affect supply or does it affect demand? Sometimes you'll get an event that affects both. Arguably the one I'm going to have could affect both, but I'm going to make some assumptions to solve that problem. But typically I'll give you a supply event or a demand event, or sometimes I'll give you two events, one supply, one demand, two demand event, two supply. Anyway, sometimes I'll give you multiple events, but I'll try to avoid giving you events that would affect both supply and demand. But it could happen. It could happen in the real world that one event affects both functions. The other thing I'll tell you is always with your graphical analysis, give me a little bit of a narrative. Tell me how you're thinking, because let's say I'm thinking about a problem one way, but you are thinking about it a different way. If you explain your rationale, even with just a sentence or two, and then go on to conduct the analysis of the situation you're thinking through, I'll give you full credit, even though it might be a different situation than what I had imagined. But only if you tell me your rationale, because otherwise I can't. I've got nothing to base such a generous grade on. All right, so think it through. Does this event affect supply or demand? Usually it's just one. So think it through. Is an underlying factor affecting the supply curve? Is that changing? Or is it an underlying factor affecting demand changing? Only the function whose underlying factor is changing is going to shift. The other one stays constant, even though we're going to get a change in quantity demanded or supplied on the function that doesn't change. We'll see. You'll see what this means in a moment. All right, then think before you draw, does the event increase or decrease the function that's affected, either supply or demand? Only then draw your new curve, and then only after that draw the new equilibrium. Where's the new supply curve if it's a supply event across the old demand curve? Where does the new demand curve across the old supply curve if it's a demand event? Shift that function, look at the new equilibrium. This is step 5. Label that new equilibrium, and done. Just follow these steps. Don't get yourself into a cycle where you say, oh, well, demand increased so that we got an increase in quantity supplied and an increase in price. We'll see why in a moment. But then the price went up, so geez, quantity demand is going to go down. You can fall into this loop. Don't do it. All right, let's get to it. I think we all needed a break from the Pakistani cucumber market. So I've got a New Jersey shore vacation, and that there's some. Let's draw the initial equilibrium. This is the equilibrium before, let's say, in 2012. This is going to be. The time span. Let's say 11 to 14. All right, 2011 to 2014. All right, initially, the event's going to be Hurricane Sandy, as the opening picture probably clued you into. Initially, there's some market price, some market quantity. Nothing has happened. All right, well, now Hurricane Sandy happens. That was a winter storm, but the next summer comes around. Let's say these vacations are only in the summer. And now, it's the next summer. I think that storm happened in 2013. It happened, I think, in 2012 maybe. Anyway, these years all blend together. Anyway, we're now it's 2014. The hurricane has happened, and is this a supply event or a demand event? Well, demand event. There's just as many people in New Jersey. They like going to the beach just as much. Their income hasn't really changed. There's in terms of how much they'd be willing to pay for a nice beach vacation that didn't take too far a drive. Well, that's all stayed the same. But what's changed is that on the supply side, there's just a lot of the beaches in New Jersey were just wiped out, gone, or destroyed to the point where they aren't going to be able to host vacationers for some years to come. So this is going to be a supply event, and it's going to be a supply decrease. So let's now that we have that in mind, let's draw that. So supply is going to change, and supply is going to decrease. So I'm drawing a new supply curve. I'm going to draw an arrow to the left. It decreases to the left, not down. It's no, even though we say supply fell, it shifted to the left. So Hurricane Sandy. And then we have, so that I shifted the curve. I draw the new market price, the new market quantity. And notice that we can know that this event is going to drive up the price of a New Jersey Shore vacation, and there's going to be fewer of them taken in 2014 than there were in 2011, 2012. So that's how you do it. And if you have another event, let's go back. Remember what I did was I drew the initial equilibrium. I thought it through completely before I started drawing. I concluded it was a decrease in supply, and only then did I draw the shift. And then I didn't overthink. I just labeled the new equilibrium and declared myself done. That's a real important step there. If you have another event, let's say New Jersey citizens' income went down in the Great Recession, actually, well, yeah, let's not think it too much. If you have a second event, just think it through. Think steps 2 through 4 again. Let's go ahead and add that other event. Actually, what the heck? This fall in income on the part of New Jersey citizens. That's a large share of the people that vacation on the New Jersey shore. There's going to be a demand event. They can afford fewer vacations. This is going to decrease demand. We'll shift the curve. Label the new equilibrium. If you have two events, I wouldn't label the new equilibrium until you're all done mapping the. But that's not the way it's going to work here. So now we have the second event, and let's change our color. Let's make it blue, just because that's different. And I'm going to draw this event in a particular way. Now we're going to have this fall in demand. I'm going to draw that shift. I'm going to draw that arrow. New Jersey citizens income falls. And then I've got this new equilibrium, right? It's going to be where the new demand curve intersects the new supply curve, and it's going to be right there. And I've drawn it so price doesn't change at all, and I did that for a particular reason. When we have two events, in this case we have a supply decrease and a demand decrease. When we have two events, there's always going to be either the price or the quantity effect that's uncertain. And the way I remind myself of that is just to draw it so the new price is exactly the same as the original price. So I can definitely say that the combination of these events is going to reduce New Jersey shore vacations. But is the price going to go up? Well, it would if the supply effect was bigger than the demand effect. Or is the price going to go down? Well, the price could go down if the demand effect is bigger than the supply effect. So the price effect is indeterminate. We don't know what's going to happen to price in this case. Sometimes you get a combination of events. It's quantity that you can't tell. There's always going to be one of those you can't tell if there's a combination of events. Do some practice to convince yourself of that.
Made with Doodlecast Pro.